Live from the Five Flags Speedway in virtual Pensacola, USA. Welcome, sim racing fans, to the iRacing East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series live on Apex Racing TV. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the commentary booth is Brian Delp and Marco Barbanera, bringing you these beautiful pictures from the virtual racetrack here tonight. And Brian, we are in week 9 of the championship. 2 weeks to go. We are here in Five Flags tonight. Next week, we'll be capping off the season with a double points race at the USA International Speedway. This championship fight is heating up. How excited are you for tonight's race?
I'm excited. Five Flags is a pretty weird track when driving, and I say that just because it is very interesting in terms of throttle control. You feel like you want to get on that throttle really early because of how low power these things have, but if you do, it's just going to send you towards that wall. I think we're going to see some people actually hitting that wall tonight, and others wrecking, trying to avoid one another. So really, tonight's just a battle of attrition and being smart with your throttle, getting that nice rotation in, and then being able to get it all the way around before getting on the gas.
And whoever can master that is going to be getting out of Five Flags Speedway tonight with the feature race victory. Taking a look at our point standings heading into tonight's race, Tyler Catalano leads the points championship by only 2 points over second place Cullen Johnston. Matthew Lambert, who led the points championship, if you remember, for a couple weeks back through the middle of the season, is now 22 points behind. Trevor Catalano is sitting in 4th, 32 points behind. Patrick Hosier in 5th, 53 points behind. And you can even go further back with Jason Hand, 85 points behind. Billy Kruzka, 86 points behind. Kyle Sisko, 92 points behind. Ignacio Adames, 109 points behind. And rounding out your top 10, Hunter Azaik, 114 points behind. And I believe technically, looking at the points right now, by the way the races give points, and by the double points race next week, it is possible for any one of our top 10 drivers to win the championship. Of course, that is long shot odds because of pretty much everybody in front of them would have to get 0 points in a race. But mathematically, it is possible. You're taking a look at that points leader right now, the 64 of Tyler Catalano. That APGAR eSports Tour Modified has been so fast recently, and he has been able to get a win this season. 6 top 5s, 7 top 10s, and he has a commanding point standings lead right now.
Yeah, but the thing is, and we've kind of seen it throughout the whole season, is that some of these points leaders, they start to get out there, and then they really get into an incident. So, and Tyler's not really shied away from that either. He's been in multiple incidents. Just last week, he was in one, was able to work his way back to get a decent finish, but at any moment, one of these guys can really get sent straight to the back from another car, just bumping them in any sort of way, or them just losing it themselves. So he's really going to have to be consistent over these next 2 races to be able to pull out the championship.
Tyler with a 5th place finish last week at Lanier Speedway, but the story of the night there was the commanding race by Tyler Cox, who led 57 laps that night, also had the fastest lap of the race with a 12.502. He currently sits 4th on the speed charts right now here at Five Flags, but Kyle Sisko, another insanely fast driver, he sits currently 3rd in. He's finished 3rd last week. He sits 8th in the point standings with 1 win this season. He is always fast, and he is back here at Five Flags, ready to go. The other Catalano, Trevor Catalano, sits in 2nd currently on the speed charts, 15.278. So Kyle Sisko is fast, Trevor Catalano is fast, Christopher Opgar is currently fast right now, 12.285. He sits 3rd. A lot of familiar faces up at the top of the leaderboard, but also a couple guys that we have seen sort of struggle the past couple weeks that are putting some great lap times down here at Five Flags.
Yeah, and looking at kind of the board and how you're mentioning some of those times right now, APGAR eSports is one of the bigger teams in the series, and they're kind of spread out a little bit right now. Trevor Catalano is in 2nd with Christopher Apgar sitting there in 3rd. Then you go all the way down really to Ken Zeems in 10th, and then Tyler Catalano in 11th. So they're pretty spread out right now. Maybe they're set up favoring 2 of the guys more than the other 2. So they're kind of really got to put in some changes here to get all 4 of their cars really up towards the front.
A little under 4 minutes remaining here in practice. at the Five Flags Speedway. And taking a look at the schedule, we will be at USA International Speedway next weekend in Lakeland, Florida for the finale of this series. Once again, it will be the third double points race of the season. And we've seen from New Hampshire and Martinsville that these double points races are incredibly important. Remember, the winner of the last double points race was Kyle Sisko, and that skyrocketed him after missing the first couple rounds of the season to be now up in ninth in points. So a win at these double points races can make or break your season. And I have a feeling next week at USA, it could possibly make or break this championship.
Yeah, and the thing is, you really want to leave here with a good points position, because going into USA, that is a much, much smaller track than what we have here at Five Flags. It's much more compact. I like to think of it as a mini Martinsville, and you think of Martinsville as some high-impact drama, but then you go to USA where it's much smaller even. So taking these things there, you're going to see these cars bumping and banging into every turn almost, and I really don't feel comfortable for any of these guys if they leave here with any sliver of a opening for another car behind to jump them in points. So I think you really want to leave here with some good points. Set yourself up nicely so that anything can happen next week and you can still be in a decent position.
In order to leave here with good points, they're going to have to get through our race format. We'll kick it off with qualifying. 3 minutes of qualifying with the top 6 automatically making their way to the feature. They will not have to race through our heat races. Then we'll go into heat 1 and 2, both 8 laps, with 4 drivers advancing to the feature in each of those. Everybody else will get in on provisional spots. Then we'll have a 3-minute warm-up with a 60-lap feature to cap off the evening. And 22 drivers can qualify for that feature. And we have 22 drivers currently qualified, or currently registered, I should say. So that means all 22 will be going to the feature, and qualifying in these heat races will be incredibly important as we set that starting grid for the feature. And Brian, we've seen it week in and week out. Cautions breed cautions in this series. Starting up front could be what make or breaks a race.
Yeah, and we've seen it throughout the entire series, really, where track position is key. I mean, you'll go whole races without pitting just to keep that track position. And we've seen it happen where guys that are running up front, they don't come down to pit at all. They stay out there, they keep that position, and they just hold everyone off behind. I can't remember the last time someone actually pit and ended up winning a race, to be honest with you. It's been a long time. So these guys are just kind of have learned that strategy that once you get up there, you command the restarts. You're command the entire field, really, because they have to work past you without wrecking you. And that's not easy to do when you're out front in one of these modifieds, especially with the quick cautions.
Sisko still fastest in this session. Trevor Catalano second. Christopher Opgar third. Tyler Cox, last week's winner, in fourth. And Billy Kruzka rounds out your top 5 in practice as we get ready to qualify. 10 seconds left on the clock now in practice. Final tune-ups to the setups before they get put on the stopwatch for time trials here at the Five Flags Speedway. Remember, the top 6 will not have to race through the heats, and that could be incredibly important to staying up front throughout the race, because our 2 heat winners, even though they did win their heats, they got to start all the way back in 7th and 8th in the 4th row. And that could be the difference between a win and getting crashed out. We are ready to qualify. Let's see where everybody will be starting. 3 minutes on the clock as we qualify all of our tour modifieds. We'll see where all of them will start on the grid, either in the feature or in the heat races. You're taking a look at Russell Peets, the 191. He has had an amazing season this year in the East Coast Thunder eSports Tour Modified Series. He's looking to put a cap on it here in these final 2 races. There's Trevor Catalano, very fast from practice. We'll see what he can do out on the track in that 54 as the first times begin to make their way in. Who is going to be fastest first time by the start-finish line? Trevor Catalano, 15.386, top of the board, but there goes Dustin Momberket, and there goes Tyler Cox. Right as I say that, 15.259, fastest time on the track, but Kyle Sisko comes across the line. He was taking his green flag lap. We'll see what happens this time by. Will Cisco get up to the top? There goes Christopher Opgar in a second. Everyone's watching Kyle Cisco, fastest in practice. Where is he going to be? Top of the board, 15.250. The 90 coming across the line of Ken Zeems. Looks like he just started a flying lap. He currently has a time down of a 15.514, looking to improve that. There's the 6 of Billy Kruska. He sits far down the order as well. He is in 9th, far off from where he was during practice. There goes Ken Zeems, 15.398. A nice time from him. He is up to 8th, and there goes Kruska, 15.358, and Opgar is going to overtake Cisco for the best time of the session. 15.243 for Christopher Opgar. That's the time to beat, but Tyler Cox now gets on top of it. 15.226. A lot of changing up at the top. Brian, we have some fast guys up at the top that are trading the top spot right now.
Yeah, and I don't really see that changing either because these guys are all fast up front there. They know how important it is in that first spot like we talked about, so they're just going to keep going out there and putting down as quick lap times as they can and with as many laps as they're allowed to because they want to be that person firing off when that green flag flies because that's the person who has the best chance of winning this race. I would put an odds of about 95% that if you are leading this race, taking that green flag, that's how much of a chance you have to win the race.
Time expiring here in qualifying. Final laps coming in. A 15.233 is all Kyle Cisco was able to put towards the pole there. Another car across the line, and Cisco, I believe, did finish that flying lap not fast enough. So Tyler Cox using that momentum that he had last week in Lanier to get on top of everybody in qualifying. There's your results. Tyler Cox, fastest, 15.226. Kyle Cisco in second. Christopher Opgar, third. Austin Beers, fourth. Dustin Momberquette in fifth. And the sixth place, Jack Eli. And that is the 6 that have automatically made their way into the feature. Here's the group that will race in Heat 1. Billy Krusko lead the field to the green with Trevor Catalano to his outside. In row 2, it's Patrick Hosier and Jody Reinhardt. Third row, Cullen Johnson, Matthew Lambert. And in the final row, Hunter Izaik and James Gerald. These 8 cars are ready to go racing to set where they will start in the feature. And this heat will make up the inside line of the starting grid for the feature. It is incredibly important that you get up front and stay up front in this heat so you're able to get a good starting spot. And I would argue here at 5 Flags that the inside line does have an advantage on these starts. So these guys in Heat 1, consider it a blessing because they are all going to be starting on the inside line, guaranteed.
Yeah, so the big thing here is, like you mentioned, just not finishing last here because you want to be further up. We talked about track position. Well, that includes the midfield also. We've seen the big wrecks that happen in the midfield. A lot of times it happens more from guys that are trying to push through the field and just tagging one another. So really, these heats do matter in terms of starting up front so that you're not putting yourself in more dangers, although we have seen some wrecks up front. So I just think it limits the opportunity that you have of getting taken out.
Here we go. The first green flag of the night is about to fly for heat number 1. Kruska going to lead the field to green. There goes the Ford Mustang iRacing.com pace car, and there goes Kruska. Green flag, 8 laps for heat 1. The 6 with a great start. He's going to hop down to the inside alongside the 54 of Trevor Catalano. He drops into second right on his back bumper. He is staying right there. He might go for the heat win here as they go on to lap 2. Almost had a little bit of contact coming off of 4, but they were able to keep it off of each other. Everybody single file on the inside of the track, but there's a move going for third. I believe that's Patrick Hosier on the 31 of Reinhardt. Reinhardt to the outside. Hosier wants that third spot, and here comes the 48 of Matthew Lambert to the back bumper of the 7.
What I think is really neat right now is they're kind of showing off how wide this track is in the turns also, where they're able to run side by side like that. It's not conventional in terms of the bottom line is still going to be the fastest way around, but you can run for a couple laps really side by side before the top line starts to truly fall off there. But we see here, Catalano is all over the back of Kruska, and he is looking to get that spot.
You want to run all the way down by the wall here at Five Flags through 3 and 4 because the car surprisingly does turn pretty easily off throttle, but right as you touch that throttle, it wants to go right up to the wall, so you got to be careful on it. Right on the back bumper of the 6 is the 54. Catalano wants by Kruska, and he wants by now. They're going to come across the line this time by 2 laps to go in the heat. Kruska trying to hold on to this Heat 1 win.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of dangerous there for Catalano, because if he ends up turning Kruska, he's going to be involved in that, because especially where he was planted, he's going to just T-bone Kruska. So he's got to be really careful with where he puts that bumper to him. If he does, and Kruska gets loose and into the wall.
Kruska in the wall on the front straightaway. He gets put in the wall by the 54. Some contact coming off of turn 4. Kruska going to be able to hold on to P2, but Trevor Catalano grabs the win in Heat 1. Kruska 2nd, Hosier 3rd, Lambert 4th, Reinhard 5th, Zyke 6th, Johnston 7th, and James Gerald rounds out your 8 cars from that heat. Brian, surprising finish from Cullen Johnston. He is 2nd in points right now. He finished 2nd to last in that heat.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things where heats can be really crazy. And go through the Heat 1 results for you real quick. Trevor Catalano was 1st, Billy Kruska 2nd, Patrick Hosier 3rd, Matthew Lambert 4th, Jody Reinhard 5th, Hunter Zyke 6th, Colin Johnson 7th, and James Gerald 8th. So just, yeah, like you mentioned, that's just a very disappointing there for Colin Johnston.
Line up for Heat 2, side by side, start, double file. Tyler Catalano, your points leader, will lead the field to the green flag here in the heat. Ken Ziems to his outside. Row 2, Daniel Hutchins and Russell Peets. Row 3, Jason Hand, Kyle Dean. And rounding out your 4 rows is Ignacio Adames and Brian Osborne. As the final 8 cars get ready to go racing in Heat 2, all these guys will start on the outside line. Coming into our feature. Right after this, we'll have a 3-minute warm-up. Then we will get going for the 60-lap feature. 2 pace laps here at Five Flags. It is under 1 mile long, so that means they pace for 1 extra lap. And Brian, we know that 64 of Tyler Catalano, leading the points by just 2 of them, needs a good finish in this heat to start up front.
Yeah, and that's one of those big things where if he could get taken out here, that's the danger of putting yourself in a heat. So you really don't want to if you don't have to, so he's really got to be careful now.
Mustang pace car pulls into pit lane. The 64 in control of the field, and there he goes. Green flag, Heat 2. The 90 of Ken Ziems going to fall right into line on that inside. Everybody running by the white line except for Russell Peets. He is stuck up on the outside, and one more was there too. Now the 90 of Ken Ziems made a look to the inside, was not able to make the pass happen. The 64 of Tyler Catalano still leads the way, and Russell Peets was able to get by that car on the inside by using that outside line. We could see that outside line come into play later, as the 29 now is stuck up there with the 4 working the inside.
Yeah, and I think he's going to end up having to give that spot up, and he does there, so the 4 ends up moving up there. But up front, they look like they're playing pretty nice right now. They're just single file up there. No one really beating and banging yet. We'll have to see if Ken Ziems can get a run on Catalano, though, because he does look pretty close. But Catalano just seems to have a little bit better entry, but Ziems is maybe better in the center of the corner. So we'll have to see how that plays out on the long run here.
Tyler Catalano still commanding this race. The 29 was able to get by the 4 there, so he is able to keep P4, but the 90 right on the back bumper of the 64. We saw the same thing in Heat 1, but can the 90 make the pass work on the 64? We saw Catalano make a pass on Kruska in the last heat. Now Ziems is trying to make a pass on the other Catalano, but the last pass ended with Kruska in the wall. And we'll see if Ziems is going to have to resort to an old bump and a run, try and get past him in this heat as they go to 2 to go.
Yeah, it seems like Ziems isn't able to get into the corner as well, truly. He just seems to be pushing up a little bit more than Catalano is, but in the center seems to be where Ziems is able to rotate the car more, and he is right back up on that bumper now, and he's going for the pass.
Down the inside, Ken Zeems in the 90, able to get the lead. Catalano gonna use the bumper. No, he's not. The 90 too far out in front. So Ken Zeems grabs the win in Heat 2. With 64, Tyler Catalano in second. Russell Peets third. Fourth, Kyle Dean. Fifth, Daniel Hutchins. Sixth, Brian Osborne. Seventh, Ignacio Adames. And Jason Hand in the 12. Rounds out the 8 cars from Heat 2. The Milk Scars will all start on the outside of your feature race. There's another look at those results. Everybody fairly close, with the top 4 being separated by less than 1 second. And Hutchins and Osborne not being far off that 1 second either. But we are now entering the 3-minute warm-up before the feature. Everybody getting their final setups ironed and ready to go in those tour modifieds before we go racing for points in the feature. I have a feeling this is going to be a very exciting race because we have seen some great racing in the 2 heats and no wrecks in the 2 heats either. We know that's plagued this series for weeks. I think tonight we're going to see some great racing from these guys.
Yeah, I wonder if these guys are starting to really see how close the finish is to the season, and maybe that's kind of affecting them a little bit, that they need to be more cautious because there's less races to make up those points if something happens. I mean, there's only 1 left after this, so it's really going to come down to these guys just being patient tonight. But I think as the laps go down, I think we'll start to see the aggression go up. So we'll have to see how it really works out, as we're seeing some big wrecks here in the warm-up.
1 minute 40 seconds left in this warm-up, and we've usually seen a lot of wrecks in the practice and warm-up as well, but that's also not really been indicative of the racing, because in these warm-ups it seems like a lot of single car spins, but in the feature we don't really have much single car spins. It is usually contact from other drivers just trying to get a position or trying to race a little too hard, a little too early. So I think all the single car spins, like the four had no contact there, and he went right up to the wall. So it's possible these single car spins are being ironed out with these setups right now, and everybody going to be a little more clean come the feature.
Yeah, it just comes down to these guys just really dialing it in and seeing what's happened. Usually in practice, like was said, it's just go out there, you push the car to the limit, see what you got. I do think one of the big things that will be a story of this race will be some of these guys that are back in the field that need these points, really. I mean, Colin Johnston, Trevor Catalano, all these guys, they really need to work, or Tyler Catalano, they really need to work their way up the field here and get up towards that front so that they can continue to lead this points. But I think Matthew Lambert is a big guy who really needs to have a good race this week. He's had a couple bad ones there. It wasn't the greatest finish that he was hoping for, and that's really took him out of the points lead. So he's looking to kind of have a bounce back night tonight, but he's not going to have a great starting position. So we'll have to see if he can really work his way up there.
Colin Johnston has been here every single week of the championship. He has 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s, and he is still 2 points behind Tyler Catalano, who missed 1 weekend and has 6 top 5s and 7 top 10s. So it just shows showing up every week and being consistent is how you get these points. And Colin Johnston has a run at the championship, and so does Matthew Lambert, so does the other Catalano, Trevor, and so does Patrick Hosier, your top 5. A lot of drivers have an opportunity at the championship if the stars align for them here tonight at Five Flags. Your starting grid: Tyler Cox will lead the field with the green flag with Kyle Sisko to his outside. Row 2, Christopher Opgar and Austin Beers. Row 3, Dustin Momberquette and Jack Eli. That rounds out the drivers that got in through qualifying. Then Trevor Catalano and Ken Zeems in row 4, both of your heat winners. Billy Kruzka and Tyler Catalano make up row 5.
In 11th, you have Patrick Hosier. In 12th is Russell Peets. In 13th, you have Matthew Lambert. 14th is Kyle Dean. 15th, Jody Reinard. 16th is Daniel Hutchins. 17th is Hunter Azaik. 18th is Brian Osborne. 19th is Colin Johnston. 20th is Ignacio Adames.
Rounding out your last row is James Gerald and Jason Hand. They start 21st and 22nd. Nobody going home tonight. 22 cars registered and 22 max for the feature. So everybody getting to race tonight. And we saw this same scenario last week. Tyler Cox started on the pole and he led 57 of 60 laps last week. Brian, do you think he can do it again? This track, pretty similar to Lanier in that it is a fairly tight oval, but the banking is higher and the speeds are higher.
I think it really just comes down to being able to rotate your car, making sure that you're able to hold that bottom, because we saw, especially in that second heat there, if you push up off that bottom at all and someone sticks their nose in there, you really got to push up the track to make sure, and that's going to give you a terrible exit, and they're going to be side by side with you. So you really got to rotate the bottom for the entire time that we're racing.
2 weeks left in this championship. No mistakes from any driver right now that is in the hopes of the championship. Pace car is down and away. Let's go racing. Week 9 is green from Five Flags.
A great start there from the two up front there of Tyler Cox and Kyle Sisko, and also really of Christopher Apgar. I mean, they're also hanging in there. And oh, it looks like Sisko goes up the track, maybe a little bit of contact, it sounded like possibly. He's gonna definitely lose another spot because of it.
He got loose back there on the top, and that sent him right back the field. He is currently sitting in third, working around the 45 of Austin Beers. He's a race winner from South Boston a couple weeks ago. Sisko back up into third, but right now it's Tyler Cox and Christopher Apgar, your top two, and the first caution is out of the night. Where was it at? And it looks like it was in one of the turns. Ignacio Adames involved. We talked about it last week. One of the least lucky drivers in this field, and Adames gets involved in another one. Taking a look at your replay, and it looks like this started just by a simple mistake from the 38, getting on the gas a little too soon, shooting up the track on exit, but unfortunately Hunter Zyke and Jason Hand were involved, and it looks like Jason Hand has pulled off of the racetrack. Unfortunately, I believe he is done.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we talked about earlier, where this track is really weird on, it makes you want to get under the gas earlier than you feel like you can, or also it's not completely straight on the straightaways, so that can be a little weird for some oval drivers because we're used to having straight straightaways. So for him, it wasn't as much, and he went out and just tapped that wall and just it sent him back down the track and caused that incident.
Just now entered pit road as Jason Hand. James Gerald was that other car involved. Ignacio Adames and Hunter Zyke. Those four involved in that incident, all down in pit road right now, grabbing some repairs. And here is that initial start that all of you saw just a couple laps ago. And you can see Sisko, he does something really interesting on these restarts, and I've noticed it whenever he's starting on the outside in second. He gets about a half car length ahead of the car on the inside, or the leader on the inside, and he is able to get a great start because right as they start going, he reacts when they are side by side. And the rule in iRacing is you cannot pass the leader until the start finish line, and he does great to where he is reacting at such a great time to where he is side by side with them, not losing any time right as they get to the start finish line.
Yeah, the dangerous thing about that, though, is the possibility of someone just tapping the throttle to do a little fake to kind of look like they're throttling up. At that point, he slams on the gas, and then he's so far ahead that it's going to end up causing him to really have to wait, and that's going to just give him a bad start. So we'll have to see if he gets back out there on if he continues to do that. It's just one of those things where it's a really risky play, but it does help.
Pace car is down and away. We are back racing. Cox with a great start on the inside, but there goes Sisko right to the inside of that 99 of Christopher Apgar. Sisko wants the second spot, and he wants it now. He has a fast car in that 62. He wants to get it up front, and he will clear the 99 on the outside. Apgar now going to battle the 45 Austin Beers for third, and it looks like the outside now showing what it showed at Martinsville, just sinking right down the order. No grip on that outside line. They are not able to make anything happen, and now the 99 goes way up the track.
Yeah, and this is what we kind of talked about with that outside lane. You can run there, it's not really going to be helpful, and he just got freight trained once he got, when he goes around, he ended up losing it off the bottom. I don't know, there was a car really close behind that maybe there was a tap, but he ends up losing it, and it's green still, so no caution flag for that, but really unfortunate incident there for Christopher Apgar.
No caution, he was able to get that car reset and back into pit road as we work lap 11 onto lap 12 of the 60 tonight. Tyler Cox in the 2 continues to lead. You're on board with Kyle Sisko right now as he works through the corner, and there's the caution for a different incident. We'll see where it is, and it's Jody Reinhardt on the front straightaway in the 31. That engine is smoking. Not sure he's going to be able to get much of that 31 machine repaired and to get back out on the racetrack. Here is the replay, and it's the same thing we saw from the first wreck, getting a little overzealous on that throttle, and right up the track they went into the wall.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be a common theme tonight with these wrecks, especially where we mentioned it, and I know we probably sound like a broken record about it, but this track and the way you feel with that throttle it's a weird feeling. So if you're not completely comfortable with it, it's better to err on the side of caution, but at the same point, when you do that, you're going to just give up positions. So these drivers want to put it all out there, and when you do that, it just puts you in a chance to make a mistake like that, where you just push out too far because you get on that throttle just a little bit too early.
Working lap 14 of 60 here tonight. Tyler Cox leads the way. Sisko in second. Austin Beers third. Jack Eli fourth. And Ken Zeems in the 90 rounds out your top 5. Biggest mover tonight, up 6 spots. Kyle Dean, he started in 14th. He is up to 8th in that number 4 machine. I do want to point something out right now because Tyler Cox won last week. I don't have an exact lap number for this, but from a certain time from last week in Lanier, Tyler Cox has led every single lap, and it has spanned over 2 races. That is impressive for that number 2 machine.
Yeah, and I mean, really being able to stay up front here, it's really impressive because we've seen these guys battling up front to where we've seen some of the leaders get taken out in some wrecks. So when you're up front and you're leading and commanding the race and you're able to stay there and not put yourself in a position where someone could take you out, then that just shows really the control you have over the entire field.
And we've seen Tyler Cox just he commanded last week, and he's commanding here. He just does such a great job at not letting anybody by him in either lane. He is able to work either lane as well to make it work for him, and he has just had such a fast car each week that we have seen him in this series. And I think if he keeps it up right now, makes no mistakes like he did last week as well, we could see a back-to-back winner in this series. And we have not seen that since week 2 and 3 at New Smyrna and Myrtle Beach with Kyle Eli.
Yeah, and I think that really these restarts are going to determine what's going to really determine this race, because that outside line has to fire off well. I think the best part is to get down behind the 2 and really put some pressure on him and just try to tuck under him.
Green flag back out. Tyler Cox in the 2 leads the way once again. Sisko gonna pull to his bumper, not able to get to the outside that time by on that restart. So he is now working the bumper of the 2, gonna take a peek to the inside. I think he's there. The 62 to the inside of Tyler Cox. Can Sisko get back to the front? He only led 1 lap last week, wasn't able to get past the 2, and this time at 5 flags, he is looking to grab that lead, and he does it. Tyler Cox into second, but he's going to do the crossover to the inside. Sisko leads the lap in the 2 to the inside, but caution is out.
Looks like the 29 there of Daniel Hutchins having some issues. We'll see what happens. This is back towards the field, and just looks like a racing incident really, where one car was pushing up a little bit. Oh, there's some big contact there afterwards. So that was Dustin Momberquette there in that incident where he was underneath the 29, and the 29 I think thought that he was going to go further to the bottom, and then at that point it looked like Momberquette was actually staying high to stay out of everything and ended up really getting the bad end of it.
They were in such a scrap back there. I mean, when you're so close to other cars, especially at a short track where, much like a road course, everybody's braking distance is just a tiny bit different. So if one driver brakes when you're not expecting them to, or if you miss your braking zone, you are right into the back of another car very quickly.
Yeah, so we won't have what we've seen in the past where a rookie goes all the way up and takes the win, like has happened so many times, but it looks like Cisco got around Cox there. That's a game changer right now.
The top 3 drivers on the racetrack are all previous race winners, and they all have a chance at grabbing another one, and each of them have only won one race. I would also like to point out that first place won back at week 6, second place won last week in week 8, and third place won 2 weeks ago in week 7. So the top 3 right now are the 3 dominant drivers right now in this series. And I am assuming if they race this entire calendar, these would be your 3 battling for the championship. But unfortunately, each of them not starting each week, which means they were not able to get the points necessary to make a run for the championship. But these 3 drivers up at the front have all been so fast in the last few weeks of this series.
Yeah, and I'm just excited to see these 3 on restarts. Really, I mean, the battling that we've seen, Cisco being able to actually take the lead away. It's been so long since we've really seen a leader take the lead from someone else. So this has been a lot of fun to see. Austin Beers is now going to try it in that second spot. Really, you want to be starting on the bottom, unless you can do what Cisco does, where you go that half car length out in front of the leader and are able to fire off in time. But that's really a skill you have to know how to do, otherwise it can cause some issues. So just really going to show who can do it. Another thing to look at, Colin Johnston not having a good night right now, down in 14th, while Tyler Catalano is up in 7th. So really, Colin Johnston needs to pick it up right now.
We'll see if he can make his way through the field. Johnston sits back in 14th. Will he be able to make a run for the championship? He needs a good finish tonight, but we are back racing. Up front, it's Kyle Cisco grabbing the lead. Beers to the inside of the 2 of Tyler Cox. Can he take over second? Maybe a little bit of contact there. The 2 gonna go back into the 22 on the outside. And there goes the 54 of Trevor Colomano, also getting by the 2 on the outside. Tyler Cox went from leading this race to getting stuck on the outside and restarts it now, almost going around. He saves it in turn 2.
Yeah, Tyler Cox has been getting bullied a little bit, but I also kind of think he's pinching guys down a lot right now from that high lane. And oh, he's in the wall again, so Cox really having some issues right now, and I'm sure he's not happy with some of the things that happened to him.
He has fallen right down the order. Currently scored in 9th place as Cisco is in command of this race right now. Austin Beers in 2nd. Trevor Catalano back in 3rd. Tyler Catalano, your points leader, back in 6th. And Johnston, unfortunately, has since lost a spot on the racetrack. He sits 15th. Not what Colin Johnston wants tonight, as there's the 22 of Jack Eli making a move on the 90 of Ken Zeems. That's going to move Zeems down to 5th. But Zeems now looking back to the inside, possibly for 4th. He's going to stay behind him in 5th. It looks like the entire field all the way back, single file, trying to see where they can make moves as we are just now past halfway.
Yeah, and I don't really think that Beers has it to get past Cisco, at least right now. We'll have to see as the run progresses, and if we can get a really long green flag run here, maybe to the end, that'd be amazing to see, and just what happens. And I mean, some of these guys have pitted. Actually, looking at it, no, they haven't. So no one on the track at the moment on the lead lap has pitted. So that's one thing to look at forward to also, is maybe these guys go on a run and they need to pit for tires and start, then we'll just see guys start making up positions very quickly. So, oh, and Cox gets turned.
He got turned by, it looks like, the 191 of Russell Peets, and Billy Kruzka also with some bad luck. Just gets caught up in that one in turn 4. Just past halfway, we are back under caution. What on earth happened there? Tyler Cox was already slow on the outside, And it looks like Pete's wasn't expecting him to come down a couple lanes, and he was on that inside. I'm kind of just wondering why the 2 was so slow on the outside there, because you can see him. He's running up a couple lanes, but it also looks like the 191 shot up the racetrack trying to get on the gas a little early. That seems like the 191 went up into the 2, or maybe the 2 came down slightly in his lane. There's one more look at that replay. This one on board the 6.
Yeah, I think it's really just a differing of line here. I think the 191 likes to move up the track more, and I've seen this from other guys also where they let the car push up a little bit to help it rotate on exit. Other guys are hugging that bottom completely, so it's really just comes down to your line and what you run. And Cisco is in from the lead and Beers in second, so big moves being made right now with people coming down to pit.
A lot of people are down in pit road right now. Majority of the front runners all came down pit road, and this puts Tyler Catalano into first, Kyle Dean to second, Russell Peets third, Patrick Hosier fourth, Matthew Lambert fifth, Colin Johnston up to sixth now, with Hutchins and Trevor Catalano rounding out seventh and eighth. And I believe Tyler Cox was Kyle Cisco was the first to come down pit road. He is the first out of pit road as well, and he's going to be the first one on fresh tires. And he did come down pit road. I'm very curious at what that pit strategy is. Maybe they're thinking that we might get a long green flag run to finish this race. No, Trevor Catalano did come down pit road, so the 54 took 2 tires, and I believe everybody else came down and took 4.
Yeah, and I mean, really, if you look at it, 6 cars stayed out at the moment. So all you have to do is get past those 6 cars, and you did a great strategy. Maybe they really were feeling the effects of the tire wear. I'm not entirely sure.
Very curious as to why everybody came down pit road there, but nonetheless, a very big shakeup up at the top of the leaderboard with Tyler Catalano and Kyle Dean leading the field to the green flag this time by Hosier and Lambert make up row 2. Hutchins Johnston in row 3. Johnston on that inside in 5th. He needs to get past Tyler Catalano here if he wants a shot at the championship. He needs to finish 2 spots ahead of Catalano to be tied with him in the championship standings. We're back green. 22 laps remaining in this race as the 64 gets a great jump. He leads by a few car lengths over Kyle Dean, and a huge pileup. Beers involved, Zeem's involved, and it looks like one more.
Yeah, and that's what the problem is when you put yourself in that situation. When you go down to take tires and you put yourself back in the field a little bit, you have the possibility of these incidents. It looks like the 29 doesn't go. And then from there, Beers jumps down, thinks he's good, and then it looks like, I think that's the 191 again of Russell Peets, and it evolved as, it just looks like the 45 didn't think he was going to be there possibly and cut across him, and that's just one of those things. We mention all the time track position. You pit, you put yourself behind guys that maybe don't pit, and then this is the possibility.
What that looked like to me, honestly, was the 45 of Austin Beers. Almost kind of maybe thought that the 191 would be in the middle of his braking, but it looks like the 191 rolled the entry of the corner a little bit faster than the 41, and by the time he saw the 45 coming down, he had nowhere to go and ended up getting into the back of him. As we're taking a look at Trevor Catalano's pit stop, he was the first one off of pit road. He didn't take any tires at all. He went into his pit box and pulled right out. So Catalano came down pit road, but did no changes to the car at all. That's going to put him at a bit of a disadvantage with those guys further back who did take 4 tires on that last stop. And the first one on 2 tires is Tyler Cox in 7th.
Yeah, and right there we see Matthew Lambert having one of the better runs for him at the moment. If he can keep this position, not pitting has put him up 9 positions from the start of the race. So good day for him. The problem for him is Colin Johnston is right there with him in 5th. So we see these guys that we know needed good points days, and they're up there at the moment using strategy. But the problem for both Johnston and Lambert, look at the leader right now, Tyler Catalano, not the guy they wanted to see out front.
18 laps to go in this race. These feature races go pretty quickly at only 60 laps. And Tyler Catalano, your points leader, just extending that points lead right now as he sits in first with Kyle Dean in second. He's going to start on the outside of this restart. And going all the way back to fifth, the 84 of Cullen Johnston. He's 2 points behind Tyler Catalano in the points championship. So it is going to be very interesting as to what happens here in this race. And remember, there are bonus points for, I believe, most laps led and fastest laps. So you're able to get 6 bonus points on top of the normal amount of points you would normally be getting. And those bonus points are incredibly important. And right now, that 1 point bonus for the fastest lap belongs to Kyle Cisco. And I believe he also has it for most laps led. We'll have to see once the points come out after this race. But we are back green. The 84 of Cullen Johnston racing back in the pack, trying to make something happen. But the 4 of Kyle Dean currently in second as the 54. Trevor Catalano's around. Who's involved? The 90 of Ken Seams. The 2 of Tyler Cox involved as well. Is his engine smoking? Yes, it is.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier about the 38 of Ignacio Adamas having bad luck. The 90 of Zeems is right there with him. It seems like Zeems is always getting caught up in something. We'll have to see what exactly ended up happening here. It looks like the 84 ends up getting the 2 and the 54 at one time there, just having an issue getting slow, maybe pushing up. Well, I think he started to push up, realized that, and tried to slow down, but the 2 was right there making contact, and he tagged the 54. So just big incident there in the 90 with nowhere to go back behind.
We've been saying it all year, cautions breed cautions. This is what we're talking about. When the field punches up like this, it is so easy for these guys to just have the slightest contact, and that just turns these tour modifieds around so easily.
Yeah, our field is really dwindling at the moment. Looking at it, right now there are 9 cars that aren't in the pits, and I believe all the cars 10th on back have damage or are out of this race. So the field really starting to dwindle down. We'll have to see if how many cars we actually have on the lead lap after this.
13 laps to go. The laps just continue to wind down here under caution, with Tyler Catalano leading the way, Kyle Dean second, Patrick Hozier up to third now, Matthew Lambert fourth, Kyle Cisco, he has been dominant tonight, he is in fifth, Cullen Johnston in sixth, Daniel Hutchins seventh, Russell Peets eighth, Trevor Catalano ninth, and Jack Eli rounds out your top 10. Your biggest mover tonight, Cullen Johnston, who is up 13 spots. He started all the way back in 19th. He is up in 6th. Currently just trying to get as many points as he can to make a run at Tyler Catalano for the points championship.
Yeah, and looking at it, we have 9 cars on the lead lap with 12 to go. So I don't know if that means that some of these guys are going to push even harder, because if they end up spinning out, then they really only go back a few positions. But we'll have to see if that plays into any of their moves and decisions as these laps wind down.
We'll be going green with 10 laps to go in